All right, so it's 10 o'clock. There are no students on right now. I'm still recording just so you have some examples. Solving linear systems by adding or subtracting. Okay, so we are going to do a couple of problems, 2 per each. This just helps you out, okay? This one's adding, subtracting. So notice that, first of all, these are in what? Standard form. So since they're in standard form, then we're able to just go through them by eliminating one of the variables. So you have to eliminate the x or you have to eliminate the y. What are you looking for? You're either looking for a additive inverse or you're looking for the exact same number, okay? And then you'll be able to add or subtract them. So if I look at this first one, problem number 1, I see a coefficient of 1 here and 2. They're not additive inverses and they're not the exact same number. So then I can go to y. I see -5 and +5. They're additive inverses, so I put a box around it. Once I put a box around it, I know that I am going to what? Add or subtract. Well, I'm going to add these. Why? Because they're opposites, okay? Additive inverse. So now 1 plus 2 is what? 3x. -5 plus a +5 is just 0. Bring down the equal sign. 10 plus 5 is what? 15. How many variables are left? Just 1. So I know how to solve for 1 by using the what? 4 steps. If I'm ever solving for a variable, use the 4 steps. So here we go. First step, simplify / combine like terms. Combine like terms, nothing to do. Second step, remove all addition, subtraction, nothing to do. Third step, remove all multiplication, division. I'm going to divide. So I divide by 3, divide by 3. 3 and 3 gets me 1. So I get x is equal to 5. Now that I know what x is equal to, what am I allowed to do with that? You got it. I can plug it into either one of these equations. Doesn't matter. Let's plug it into the first one. So substitution, use what? Parentheses. So 1, x is what? 5 minus 5y equals 10. All right. So with that being said, I'm able to do PEMDAS, which is just 1 times 5, which is really nothing. But let's say it's PEMDAS because it's multiplication. So I get 5 minus 5y equals 10. 2 is what? Remove all addition, subtraction from your variable. This is a +5, so I need to subtract it. So I'm going to say -5 minus 5. 10 is a constant, 5 is a constant, so I can do that, okay? 5 minus 5 is 0. Bring down the -5y is equal to 10 minus 5 is 5. Step 3, remove multiplication, division. So I'm going to divide. What am I dividing by? You got it, -5. So if I divide by -5, I got to do it on both sides. So -5 gives me 1. Y is equal to 5 divided by -5 is a -1. So now look, y is equal to -1, x is equal to 5. My final answer is 5, comma, -1. This is where both of these equations up here intersect. Does that make sense? Pretty straightforward. Okay. So now, second problem, which one am I going to eliminate? Well, I got a 1 here, I got a 1 here, I got a 1 here. I don't have an additive inverse, but I do have 1 and 1. Since they are the same, I'm going to box them because I'm going to eliminate the y. But I can't add them because if I add, it gets 1 plus 1 is 2. Whenever you're doing this, you want it to go to 0, elimination. So I am going to what? Subtract them because 1 minus 1 is what? 0. Now, this is the same thing as distributing a negative to every last one of these on the bottom row. Watch. 1 minus 5, that is -4. X. 1 minus 1, that's 0. -10 minus a -2, a negative and a negative is a positive. So that says negative 10 plus 2. And since it says plus 2, I'm going to get negative 8. Now I'm solving for what? X. Step 1, nothing to do. Step 2, nothing to do. Step 3, divide. Why divide? Because this is negative 4 times x. Negative 4, negative 4. I get what? X equals negative negative is a positive. 8 divided by 4 is 2. Now that I know that x is equal to 2, what can I do? Substitute it back in. Doesn't matter which equation. So let's do the bottom one. Here we go. We got 5. Instead of an x, we're going to put in what? What is x equal to? 2. Plus 1y, I'll just write y, equals, the original equation was a negative 2. The original one was a negative 2. You can't just switch it now. So the original equation, 5x plus y is equal to negative 2. Okay? And now what am I solving for? Y. Step 1, anything to do? Yes, PEMDAS. There's a multiplication, 5 times 2, which is what? 10. Plus y is equal to what? Negative 2. Still going for y. Step 2 is what? Yes, subtract. Why? We're removing all addition subtraction. So I got negative 10 here. Negative 10. So 10 minus 10 is 0. Bring down the y. Negative 2 minus 10. Same sign means add them. So 10 plus 2 is 12. Keep the sign. So negative 12. Okay? So now x is equal to 2. Y is equal to negative 12. My final answer is negative 2, negative 12. And this is where both of the original lines will what? Intersect. Okay? All right, what else we got? So that was both of them. Here's some more problems. Since nobody is on, I'll check again just to make sure nobody's in the waiting room. Anybody in the waiting room? Nobody's there. Okay. Just looking. Nope, just me. Okay. All right. So here we go. Word problem down here. All right, write a system of equations to solve. So a plumber charges an initial amount to make a house call. All right, so an initial amount. There's only 2 different equations we've really talked about, which is standard form, okay, and slope intercept form. Now, with that being said, that's pretty much what you're trying to force these equations into. Unless it says just add this, subtract this, subtract that. You have 2 equations that you can deal with. Standard form or slope intercept form. What is standard form? Ax plus by is equal to c. Slope intercept form is y is equal to mx plus b. Well, in here, we know that this is always what? Yes, it's our y-intercept, but we also call that our starting point. Okay, this is our starting point. And look, initial amount, the word initial is where we start, so starting point, okay? And then these 2 things are, the slope is our rate of change. And since it's a rate of change, it's always multiplied by something, an hour, some kind of feed, some kind of whatever, okay? So this is how we change from our starting point. And then whatever that is, if we add them up or subtract them, we get what they're equal to, okay? So what we want to do is look at this, and I'm just going to talk about slope intercept form because we've been dealing with that so much, all right? So if this is the initial amount, then we're talking about B here. This is how much he charges no matter what, okay? If he walks on into a house, then he's getting paid so many dollars just for even showing up, okay? All right, to make a house call plus an hourly rate. Now remember what we said, that's the change, okay? Anytime you hear that per hour, per mile, per feet, that's your change, okay? So for the timing's working. Now let's look at this. A 1 hour job, a 1 hour job. So they already told me how many hours. So now remember, y equals mx plus b. This is our hour. So they already told us what that is. It's 1, okay? And that job cost, so is equal to 90 bucks. So that's over here, 90. And a 3-hour job, hold on. They already jumped to the second job. I'm missing some things. You are. What are you missing? The slope. Why? For every hour, it costs a certain amount of dollars, correct? So I need to figure out how many dollars he's going to charge per hour. I don't know what that is, so I'm going to leave it as M. Or you could leave it as a $sign, okay? Do I know the initial amount? No, that's actually what they're asking for, okay? So plus B, I'm gonna just leave it there. These are two unknowns. I don't know the slope. I don't know where he initially started, but I do know how much it costs for 1 hour, and I do know that it's 1 hour. So let's look again. His second job is a 3-hour job. Do we know how much he's charging per those 3 hours? No, but I do know that it's exactly the same as the first job, because you can't go to a job and keep changing the rates, okay? So I know that he's charging a certain amount per hour. Now, do I know the initial amount he charges just to be at the house? No, so that's just B. But I do know that a 3-hour job is gonna cost what? $210. Now, I know you're looking at this and you're like, oh my goodness, what in the world? What kind of problem is that? Well, all it is 2 equations with 2 unknowns. And now that you have 2, I can't solve an equation unless I only have what? 1 unknown. But if I have 2 equations with 2 unknowns, what can I do? The process of elimination. Okay, so now look at this. What is the coefficient of B? 1. What's the coefficient of this B? 1. What do we say about this? I can eliminate B because they have the same coefficient. But am I going to add these equations or subtract them? I am going to what? Subtract them because they're both positive 1. Now, here we go. Because the numbers are bigger on the bottom, actually, I'll just do it this way. Here we go. So 210 is 90 minus 210. So I put the bigger number on top. I subtract the 90. I get 0, carry that, borrow the 1. I get 2, keep the 1. So I get 120. But I'm going to keep the sign of the bigger number. So that's negative, right? So I get negative 120. Negative 120. 90 minus 210 is negative 120. Okay. This says negative 1. Remember, we can't, whenever we write this, the coefficient becomes 1m, and this becomes 3m, because we want to keep it like that, okay? So now, 1 minus 3. Put the bigger number on top, subtract the 1, I get 2. Keep the sign of the bigger number. So that's negative 2m. Does that make sense? All right, and now negative 1 minus 1 is just 0. Look at that. I eliminate the b's. Now I can solve for m, which is my slope. How much is he charging per hour? That's what that means. All right, so step 1, nothing to do. Simplify / combine like terms. Step 2, there is no addition or subtraction near my variable. Step 3, remove all what? Multiplication and division. So I'm going to divide. I'm going to divide by negative 2. Negative 2. 120 divided by negative 2 is what? 60 is equal to m. M is my slope, which is my rate of change. So what is he charging per hour? $60. You see how easy that was? All right. So now, if I know that he's charging $60 per hour, Well, I know that for a 1 hour job, it's going to cost somebody 90 bucks. So here's $60 times this 1 hour. So how much is he charging initially? The y-intercept right there, okay? So here we go. I want to solve for B. Step 1, simplify / combine like terms. 60 times 1 is just, that's PEMDAS, but that's simple for you. That's just 90 equals 60 plus B, okay? Then the second set says remove all addition subtraction. I am going to what? Subtract. Subtract what? 60, because we're adding a 60. What I do to one side, I must do to the other. I got that. And then 90 minus 60 is what? 30. This is 0. B. So how much does he charge just to walk into a house? $30. So this plumber charges $30 per hour, and then however many hours he works, which is our X, that's the hours, he's going to charge you $60 an hour. And this will always tell you how much what? The total cost of your job will be. Does that make sense? All right. Okay, chapter 14. Let's breeze through this. Whenever you see addition, when we're talking about adding and subtracting polynomials, whenever you see addition, what are we doing? Well, here's a +1. I distribute this +1. That's just step 1. All right, we are going to distribute that +1. So nothing happened here. So I got 10g squared plus 3g minus 10. 1 times 2g squared is just that, plus g plus 9. Simple. Okay. All right. So now all I have to do is what? That's right. Combine like terms. So I am going to combine like terms. Here's g squared. Here's g squared. What am I doing? I'm including the sign that's in front of the term. Okay. Here's a g. Here's a g. Then here is a constant, and here is a constant. So now let's add up the blues. So here we go. 10g squared plus a 2g squared is 12g squared. Okay. Then let's add up the green. Nope, let's add up the grays because it's g. So 3g plus g. This is a constant of a coefficient of 1. So 3 plus 1 is what? 4. So I get 4g. Now let's do the greens. Negative 10 plus 9 is just negative 1. And done. Same thing here. Positive 1, so I distribute the positive 1 through. All we're doing really is dropping the parentheses, okay? So if we drop the parentheses, I get what? 4x cubed minus x cubed, squared plus 2x plus 1 times 3, so that's 3x cubed plus x squared plus 4x. Now what do? You got it. I find all the cubes. There we go. I got 2 of them. I find all the squareds. Okay, I got 2 of them. I find all the x's. I have 2 of them. So now I just add up the reds. So 4 and 3 get me what? 7x cubed. Simply put. Notice when I'm adding and subtracting, nothing changes with the variable or the power. Nothing will change when you're adding and subtracting that. So I have negative 1 plus 1. What happens? That becomes 0. So there's nothing left there. Because negative 1 plus 1 is 0. 0 times x squared, 0. Okay. And then we have gray. 2x plus 4x. 2 plus 4 is what? 6. So I get 6x. Simple, simple, simple. Now, same exact thing, except for this time we're going to subtract polynomials. All right. What's the first step? Nothing changes. Distribute, because we're simplifying. But this time we're distributing a what? A negative 1. What's going to happen to all the signs in this polynomial in the back? Yes, they're going to flip. So I got 11b squared plus 3b minus 1. Negative 1 times 2, negative 2b squared. Negative 1 times 2, negative 2b. Negative 1 times 8, negative 8. And now we just combine like terms. Here's a b squared. Here's a b squared. Look at how I capture that sign in front. 3b, negative 2b. Negative 1, negative 8. And now I just do it. 11 minus 2 is what? 9. So I get 9b squared. 3 minus 2 is what? 1, a positive 1. So just b. And then negative 1 minus 8, same sign, so add. So I get negative 9. Okay. Now I come over here. I have another negative 1. So here's a negative 1. Distribute that in. Simplify / combine like terms. This is my first step, my first checkpoint. Distribute. Okay. So that's going to change all my signs. So I get c cubed minus c squared plus 2c. Negative 1 times negative 3 plus 3c cubed. Negative 1 times negative 1. So I get plus c squared. Negative 1 times negative 4 plus 4c. Now what do? C cubed, negative c squared plus c squared plus 2c plus 4c. Combine like terms. That's all that is. Combine like terms. So here we go. There's a 1 there. Here's a 3. 1 plus 3 is what? 4. So I get 4c cubed. Now I have negative 1c squared plus 1c squared. Negative 1 plus 1, 0. And then I got 2c, 4c, 2 and 4 is what? 6. 6c. Notice when adding and subtracting, you don't change the variable, you don't change the power, you leave them alone. Okay, so that's adding and subtracting polynomials. And I'm done for today. Okay?